Hello and welcome to another episode of Exponential Health. And today, building on the hierarchy of health that we discussed yesterday, which went from optimum wellness all the way down to death, we are going to look at the entire lifespan and how that actually plays out. So, when you think about health, here's an interesting question for you. Where do you believe you actually start off in life with regards to your health? Do you think that you start off at optimum wellness, or do you start off at baseline health, or do you start off at disease? Now, obviously, everyone is different in and of their journey, right? But I want to bring to your attention some key information that might change the way you perceive where your health actually starts. And before we do that, one of the other pieces of information that is important is to look at what defines optimal wellness. So, yesterday, or the previous video, we talked about having your spirit, your mind, and your body completely aligned, right? Having health in all of those areas. But another way to look at it is that optimum wellness is essentially your energy levels. So if I were to define the levels, I would say optimum health is 100, and then optimum wellness is 100 plus. That might seem like a bit of a strange thing to say, but when we become optimally well, the body increases in its efficiency and it engages in multiplication and growth. So we are able to extract even more and develop and become even better, stronger, faster, more resilient, better at meditating. So the effects that we get is no longer linear. Hence, it's over 100 plus. Now, when we look at the agitation and all of the other areas, one of the important things that I want to bring to your attention is how much energy is consumed, right, to get to the level of agitation. And for me, the level of agitation is about 20 to 30% energy, right? And then we work all the way down to zero. So this is not at all a linear scale by any imagination. And that is because the difference from the starting process of disease is when our body's resilience is overwhelmed, and our body has tremendous capability to actually fight disease, and it's always seeking balance. So even in the absence of symptoms, it has to have depleted a very significant amount of resources before it reaches there, right? So, where do you start in this journey? When you are born, where do you think you might be? So, if you're not aware, the Environmental Working Group did a test of babies, right? There were 10 babies that were born in 2004, and basically they tested them for a bunch of different chemicals that are in the cord blood. What the test revealed was that there was a total of 287 chemicals that they have found, right, in the umbilical cord of these babies. 287 chemicals. Now you say, well, chemicals are okay. There's nothing particularly bad about that. Well, these included Teflon, which is a PFOA, and it's a fluoridated type of compound. It's a carcinogen, right? There are flame retardants that have been detected. There are also numerous pesticides, and then toxic byproducts from production of different toxic byproducts, production of different types of materials. So the chemical pollutants that were detected include mercury, polyaromatic hydrocarbons. You have the perfluorinated chemicals, which is in Teflon. You have the perchlorinated dioxins, organic pesticides, persistent organic pollutants, right? So there are all of these different things. And guess what? If this is where you actually start off life, would you be in optimum wellness? Would you even be at baseline health? I would argue that most of us, if we are lucky, would start off life here at about the agitation stage. And then you become a toddler. From a toddler, then we're going to skip a few steps. We go through to become a teenager, an adult, and then after that, we grow old, right? So as a toddler, you would start the whole exploration process, and also now you get exposed to a diet. So if you are not eating organic, then there is an increased burden of pesticides and herbicides. And besides, 50% of your entire lifetime burden of pesticides and herbicides are actually established by the time you are age 5. All right, that is how much we actually take in during the growing periods. So if you're not eating organic, if you're not choosing what is going into your mouth, then you're accumulating toxins. Now, here's an important concept of bioaccumulation, and that is if we do not detoxify throughout our lives, we continue to actually accumulate them. Just like mercury accumulation happens inside fish, and it goes further and further and further up as we get higher up the food chain, right? First, it's in the water, it gets eaten by small fish gets eaten by medium-sized fish, which gets eaten by big fish, and the mercury level goes up because it accumulates. So our bodies, as we go through life, we're accumulating toxins. And once it accumulates all of the different toxins, then it gets to the stage whereby we are unable to detoxify, and therefore we get to the stage of disease. So as a toddler, we are accumulating those things. And as we accumulate them, if we are lucky and our systems are functioning at maximum, we might stay the same. But if not, then we start to go through the period of dilution. This is where a lot of kids get rashes, non-specific symptoms like upper respiratory tract type infections. They might have gut symptoms with diarrhea, occasional pain, things like that. So there is a slight decline. Then as a teenager, what happens? The environmental exposure increases. Now, what do most teenagers actually have? They have access to a cell phone or a mobile phone. So here we get a tremendous increase in electromagnetic radiation, right? Besides that, there is a whole bunch of other environmental exposure. So as a teenager, you might start taking a oral contraceptive pill if you're a female. There is exploration of food, the utilization of junk food. There is also alcohol, and just again a further accumulation of substances. And here most people then start to get more specific symptoms. They are developing acne, which is the skin. Here they probably establish either celiac or some form of gastrointestinal disturbance, or you got gastroesophageal reflux. A lot of people in their teenagers start getting bloating. Here they are gaining weight as well. So the health status doesn't look particularly great. And then as an adult, this trend continues. So now, as we're going through our lifeline, we start to become conditioned to live a particular way. So an adult I like to characterize as a box, right? You wake up in a box mattress, and then you get out and have a box breakfast with box milk. Then you hop in a box, you go to work in a box, you type in a box, you use the computer, which is a box, and then when you finish work, you go home, repeat the same thing all over again. So here, not to be facetious, but a lot of the different boxes that we live in are essentially a concentration of toxins because you are in a confined space, right? Therefore, the exchange of air is limited. The exchange of materials are what is within that particular box, and the type of chemicals that we're exposed to increases. So every year we know that there's over 100,000 types of different chemicals, synthetic, that are coming into the environment. These are adding to the pollution that we have, and this is coming in year after year after year. So without proper detoxification, then these are accumulating, and by this time, the adults have some kind of established disease, either diabetes or high blood pressure or cancer even, right? And finally, when we get old, then we might reach the stage whereby we